Hi, Talita. It is Tourist Tuesday, and I went back in time a little. Pan Am is a no longer existing airline, but it was one of the major commercial airlines that had the most experience in taking passengers across the country to travel throughout the world. I have my handy dandy globe. I think this is one of the best things you guys can have in your homes. And it shows you, of course, obviously, what the earth is. But sometimes when you're bored, you can just spin it and land your finger somewhere and try to learn more about that country. Maybe make a goal to visit it. I love globes. And one of the other things I thought today for Tourist Tuesday, pick some books that are about somewhere you would like to visit, somewhere you'd like to go. I decided I would love to go to Hawaii. High Tide in Hawaii by Magic Tree House. What I love about Magic Tree House is it's a chapter book. A lot of first graders, second graders, third graders love to read it. Um, Not only does it take you places, it takes you places in different time periods sometimes. So it's a good discovery. Another series I really like is Field Trip Mysteries. This is going to be another chapter book for our lower grades. Has beautiful pictures on there. This one takes place at the Grand Canyon. Oftentimes we think of tourists as traveling outside of our country. We can be tourists within our own country. We can even be tourists within our own city. Sometimes people really love history. Then I think books about explorers are really cool to look at because it's really amazing to know what they went through and what they experienced. And it's also important to remember that explorers, I often immediately think of like Lewis and Clark or Magellan. Astronauts, they're exploring space. Or in the sea, they're exploring the sea. So many things to look at. And oh, you guys, for Battle of the Books, Boxes for Kache, this story is about a girl who lives in Holland and receives a box from America. So that's pretty cool. I love Holland. I actually have been there a few times. And Front Desk, this is another Battle of the Books book, and it is about a person who lives in a motel. So she gets to see lots of tourists coming through. This is fourth and fifth grade. Fourth and fifth grade Battle of the Books. And I also, the class trip from the Black Lagoon. That might be fun. I think Dr. Bruno's going to take you guys on a class trip today. I also found this in our library, Blast Off to Earth, a look at geography. That's pretty cool to see. You kind of flip through from the perspective of an alien and they look at humans and like, they're like, oh my gosh, that big elephant. That's a cute one. And I am going to read you guys The Relatives Came by Cynthia Rylant, illustrated by Stephen Gammell. And sometimes, especially in this day and age, we might not be able to go travel anywhere, but maybe relatives can come travel to see us. Maybe they even can't come to see us because of the coronavirus and we're all being very careful. But in any case, if you cannot go travel somewhere, perhaps someone can travel to you and you learn from them. Could be so close. Oh, you guys, we haven't had one of these in a while. Look, we're going back in history again. Long time ago, I'd shown you guys this last year a few times. This is what kids used to check out books from the library. And I like to keep these things because it's a part of history. So now they're all computerized, but look how cute that is. The relatives came for Aunt Agnes Little and her brood, Dick Jackson and his Gary and others. I am so getting used to this. Can you see? It was in the summer of the year when the relatives came. They came up from Virginia. They left when their grapes were nearly purple enough to pick, but not quite. They're coming up from Virginia. They had an old station wagon that smelled like a real car, and in it they put an ice chest full of soda pop and some boxes of crackers and some bologna sandwiches. And up they came from Virginia. They left at 4 in the morning when it was still dark, before even the birds were awake. How many of you guys have done that? Have taken a trip and you've gotten up so early it's still dark outside? We've done that. They drove all day long and into the night, and while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses in different mountains, and they thought about their almost purple grapes back home. They thought about Virginia, but they thought about us too, waiting for them. And that happens too when you go on a trip. You're excited to go where you're going to go, but sometimes you start to miss home. So they drank up all their pop and ate up all their crackers and traveled up all those miles until finally they pulled into our yard. Uh-oh. They really pulled into that yard. I hope that never happens to me where I drive through a fence. Then it was hugging time. Talk about hugging. Those relatives just passed us all around their car, pulling us against their wrinkled Virginia clothes, crying sometimes. They hugged us for hours. Oh, when you guys see family and friends you haven't seen in a while, it feels so nice to be so close to them, doesn't it? Ah. Cousins. This reminds me, we used to go visit our cousins in Argentina. Oh, and it was always such a happy reunion to see them. Then it was into the house, and so much laughing and shining faces and hugging in the doorways. You'd have to go through at least 4 different hugs to get from the kitchen to the front room. Those relatives. Can you guys think of times that you had relatives just hugging and so happy to see you? And finally, after a big supper, 2 or 3 times around until we all got a turn at the table, there was quiet talk, and we were in 2s and 3s through the house. So they started calming down. The relatives weren't particular about beds, which was good since there weren't any extras. So a few squeezed in with us and the rest slept on the floor, some with their arms thrown over the closest person, or some with an arm across one person and a leg across the other. It was different going to sleep with all that new breathing in the house. That is one crowded house. The relatives stayed for weeks and weeks. They helped us tend the garden and they fixed any broken things they could find. That's really nice. They ate up all our strawberries and melons, then promised we could eat up all their grapes and peaches when we came to Virginia. I wonder where this story is taking place. In the United States, obviously. Maybe we'll take a little tour on the map back there. But none of us thought about Virginia much. We were so busy hugging and eating and being together. They really loved each other. Finally, after a long while, the relatives loaded up their ice chest and headed back to Virginia at 4 in the morning. We stood there in our pajamas and waved them off in the dark. We watched the relatives disappear down the road. Then we crawled back into our beds that felt too big and too quiet. We fell asleep. That's always a hard part of a vacation when it ends. And the relatives drove on all day long and into the night, and while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses in different mountains, and they thought about their dark purple grapes waiting at home in Virginia, but they thought about us too, missing them. and they missed us. See, I love what this story does, how it talks about the differences you see traveling across the country. And when they finally got home to Virginia, they crawled in their silent, soft beds and dreamed about the next summer. And that is the story about the relatives came. And I have the map right behind me. So Virginia, let's see, is right here. Can you guys see? And they said they went north. There's so many places that they could have gone. Maybe they went up to Pennsylvania because there are mountains and hills. Or they might have gone up to New York. Maybe all the way up to Maine. And then they had to go south again back to Virginia. Somewhere north. That's where they went. They traveled north. Oh, maybe they lived way here in Virginia and went this way. I do not know. But anywhere north. Kind of cool. So I hope you guys got some good reading ideas and enjoy the rest of your tourist day. Bye.